Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Please continue to help the victims of the Texas floods and the California wildfires. They really do need our help. Today, I have a great person. We're going to talk about credit. We're going to talk about how you can improve your credit, and also how you can, make it work for you. Okay, so today we have the great Laurie Madock, and Laurie is a credit consultant and a co-owner of crediteducationconsultants.com. She has been a very great help to this podcast as well. And so, Laurie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Joey. Much appreciated. A little background. Yep, I'll give you a little quick background about me. I've been a credit consultant teacher for over 19 years now. And also I authored a book called From Credit Disaster to Credit Master to try to teach people how the system works, because it's not what you think.
It won't come up on the screen.
Oh, the book?
Yeah.
I could just hold it, or you could hold it. I have one here too.
I attempted to hold. There we go. Yeah, I attempted to hold it. It just won't come up on the screen on my end. Okay.
All
right. So, so what got you into wanting to be a credit consultant? What led to it?
Well, that's an interesting question, Joey, because I wasn't looking to become a credit consultant at all. I'm from the New York metro area. I've been here almost 20 years, Labor Day weekend. Yeah, and I was with my first husband at the time, and we got licensed as realtors before the market crashed eventually. I was on a RE/MAX team, but I never actually ended up working as a realtor. They knew I liked puzzles. And I was asked, well, do you think you can help people with bad credit turn it around? And I actually cried 3 weeks in and said, I can't do this, because how come these companies don't respond even when you have information to correct it? They just respond back with the same bad information. So over the course of 19 years, and I'm always still learning and reading, I managed to actually figure out how things really do work. I think in the past, when I've given like speeches in front of mortgage people or real estate agents, they're pretty much going, "Oh no, it can't be like that." And I'm like, but it is. And so what you as a consumer think, that if you think you're doing things correctly, the majority of people are actually not, because in the FICO scoring system, what you think is good is actually bad most of the time. It backfires and it drops down your scores. Now, just conversely, when I grew up and I went to college at 17, my father said two things: pay everything off and never be late. And I ended up with very high scores within a few years in my early 20s. And I've kept it that way. So my scores are always in the 800s. Just so you know, I only play with my scores to see what FICO will do, but it's helped me be able to teach, clients how it really does work, how it can benefit them. So it's something I could actually write a dissertation of probably 500 pages on credit. But you saw my credit book here. This is the book. It's like a manual, and it's only 68 pages long. So I call it the Cliff Notes of credit. It gives you the highlights, because if you're going to attempt to do it yourself, you got to know what you're doing. I'm not a credit repair company. Typically, most credit repair companies do not operate legally. They're not necessarily licensed, or they don't necessarily have insurance. I was actually messaging with someone yesterday in a group where people were giving really bad advice to somebody, and I actually went in, because this is a group I comment, if I'm trying to help someone who's desperate, basically, and I block all the people that give bad answers, because I can't cope. It's those people that think they know it all, and they don't.
Yeah.
So I deal with know-it-alls, or Karens, as you would call them. Yeah. I'm not gonna waste my energy or time with people who don't want to learn. That's the whole key. Get the skill And don't keep going back to credit repair companies. They cannot fix all of your mistakes.
I learned that from experience, folks.
What happened to you?
I went to companies and all they said, oh, let's just send out some dispute letters. And so we sent out some dispute letters, and then, but when you send out the dispute letters, they still they say, yeah, your debt is active, or it is correct, and they won't take it off your report.
And do you want me to tell you why?
Go for it.
Okay. So the majority of people who write letters, and listen, on Facebook, I actually watch for these credit repair companies that give out false information.
Mm-hmm.
They make you think that a special letter will get it off and wipe you clean, and by the end of the month you're going to have 800 scores. And no, that's not how it works. So while you can dispute by phone or via online, there are ways to do it. First off, any dispute you send has to go certified return receipt letter, and it has to be about something that's inaccurate or obsolete. There has to be some kind of error on that report. If it's reporting accurately under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, they do not have to remove it. No special letter is going to make it go away. But let me tell you this. Most people think that someone actually reads the letters. Okay, those letters are shipped out overseas typically, and they are optically scanned, just like companies that are doing, like, taking your resume, right? They scan it for keywords. So what happens in credit is those letters are optically scanned, and your disputes are converted into 2-digit codes. And via a special software program, the credit bureaus now zap it out to the original creditor or the collector. And they have the same software program, but at the end, they have another special type of software that allows them to keep all their information about that debt and you. So it's all electronic. It zaps out. It looks in the computer. It either matches up and it'll come back the same, or it could be better or worse. And that's when you might see a change. Typically, unless there is a legal situation like identity theft or a merged file, no one's going to read your letter.
Right.
So you could forget about all the special letters.
Okay.
That is, and it took years. It took years of puzzle. And I want to make one other comment real quick while I'm thinking of it too. So when I wrote my book, I attempted to ask questions through AI, through a chat GPT. It could not give me the correct answers because it's more than looking at just one question. When I look at a report, I see the whole thing as a picture. And that picture tells me a story. And then when I talk to the prospective client, I explain what it's saying about them. And then, obviously I want to find out what the real story is. The only thing I used with Chat GPT with my book was for grammatical correction. And that was it. And instead of the word important, it would use the word crucial. And I said, okay, now I got to go back and edit the Chat GPT. But all of the book is actually written by me from helping people for a long period of time.
Okay, all right. So let's go way back. For those that are new to it,
yes,
and have lived in the cave for about 5 million years, what is credit?
Well, credit is a way. It's sort of like your person report on how what is your risk worthiness? Is it good or bad? And it's based. I'll tell you the percentages of how it's based, which is done through Fair Isaac Company. What you know is FICO. So 35% of that is based of your score. It's an algorithm, is based on your payment history. That means that you must always pay. People use credit and don't, first off, they use credit and they don't even realize the percentage rates. That's another topic, but pay it off on time. If you are late, I've seen 30 points, 50 points, 100 points. On a mortgage, I've seen 200 points. If you fail to make your payments on time. What's tricky is you don't know when the credit bureaus are updating So sometimes that's a little difficult, but the payment, you should know as a consumer, when are the payments due on all of your credit lines? If you don't know that, then you need to find out, because if you miss it, you can't necessarily get that fixed because it's legitimate. You know, I'm going to tell you, I have a credit card that's 26 years old. Wow. About 10 years ago, I realized I had never received, this is when we're still doing mail. I'm going, wow, it seems like I didn't get the statement this month. I called up the bank and they said, yeah, you missed it, but we see that you have never had a late payment. So we're going to take that payment away. I consider that extremely lucky because it was a big hit, you know? So 35% is your payment history. 30% is the amount you owe. Now, here's the problem here, probably in a lot of countries, but really in America, is people spend beyond their means. It's an impulse. They want to buy it and they want it now. And when they want it now, they are getting nowadays very high interest rates. And just to give you an idea, my scores are in the 800s, and one of my credit cards, which I've never owed money to, I'm called a deadbeat in credit world. I don't owe money. But they raised my interest rate from 8% to 13% to 19.25%. And I don't owe money. So you kind of get the idea. And why are they doing that? Because, you know, that now there aren't as many fees being allowed. So how can they make that up? They can just increase the interest rate across the board. And keep in mind, they have statistics on everybody. So they know on average what the average person is going to do. The next percentage is 15% is the length of the history. So how long you've had it, you know, let me just give you an idea. My scores are in the 800s and I only have 2 credit cards, but because they are so old, because they have perfect payment history, and I've never been late, except for that one story I told you, those 2 alone drive my score, and that is highly unusual. Because typically you need a mix of credit, and that's 10% of the FICO algorithm, meaning do you have installment loans as well as credit loans. So for example, when I paid off my car a couple of years ago, I took a temporary hit of about 30 points because I'm now 0 in installment loans. I don't owe money. So but it went back within a few months. It actually went back up. And the last percentage is 10% for new credit applied for. Now, be really careful with that, because I'll be honest, I haven't applied for new credit in a very long time. And I'm not going to risk it, because when you apply for credit, it is usually a hard hit inquiry. And if they're taking your name and your social security number and your date of birth, that's most likely going to be a hard hit, which means more points off your score. So new credit is the least thing that you should have to be worried about.
Okay. That brings up the next point. What is the difference between a hard pull and a soft pull?
Easy. A hard pull means they are going to look at your total report and take points off your score, which it can be, they don't tell you how many points FICO, but best guess is usually 5 to 10 points. A soft inquiry means it's not going to take points off. They may just be looking at your scores without the reports, and from there they make a determination whether you look like you are a good prospective customer, especially with credit cards. So soft pull, there's no points. And if you pull your own credit, there's no points. But when a lender pulls it, typically there are points. And if they tell you it's a soft inquiry, seriously, I would get it in writing, because if it's not in writing, you know how that works.
Yeah. Okay. So mainly, you know, people that are now, when people don't have credit right now, and they apply for their first credit card or their first installment loan, first car loan. In reference to the credit score, where do they do they start at like 0, or do they start at like 800?
No, they don't start at any number until there's enough credit that FICO can use that algorithm. So I've actually seen reports where there's no score, but there may be, one credit card because it has to age or season. It's not on there long enough.
Right.
Now, if you want to, as a young person, develop good credit early, this again was from my dad. I was 17 when I went to college, not 18. So he gave me a credit card that he opened. He was the card holder, but I'm the authorized user. He put me on as an authorized user, and that's when he said, "Pay it off. Don't owe money and don't be late." And so he never used that card. I used that card only, and I did that. And 6 years later, I called the credit card company and said, "Hey, this is what happened. My dad, you can see he never used it. Can you flip that credit card to just my name?" And surprisingly, yes, they did. I don't know if they still do that, but for people nowadays, parents can get their kids credit cards, but they don't have to give them the credit cards to use. So as long as the parent is doing everything right, then that child will slowly be able to develop positive credit because of being an authorized user. Keep in mind, though, if the parent makes a mistake or pays late, if you're an authorized user, that is going to affect you. The other things to help you if you're new to credit, I'm thinking back to when I did this years ago, would be to take out a loan, usually from your bank, even if it's a small loan. And there are companies online, and you have to do due diligence, but there are companies that will say, "Hey, we will report your information to the credit bureau, but you can only buy from us." So it's sort of a way for them to do it. But again, you're going to probably pay more money anyway. But yeah, that's the easiest way, is to do authorized user. Also, you can open up at a credit union or bank, you can open up credit cards if they allow it. And you particularly want any of your credit lines to report to all three credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And the reason why is because eventually, if you're going to buy a house, buy property, the lender is going to look at the mid score, meaning they drop the highest and lowest numbers from the three bureaus, and whatever number is in the middle, that is your score.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quote unquote break. And then when we come back, we are going to talk more credit. And if anybody comes on the live stream and has questions, please present them. Okay. And we will be right back. Welcome back to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. Bear with us. Our little system is a little slow, hence why I have a GoFundMe page to try to upgrade and expand this podcast. So we're talking with Laurie Madock about credit, and we talked about what the credit report is, but we're going to go a little more into the credit report itself of what is actually what factors are really in the credit report that lenders are going to look at in reference to, when they do their determinations and send it to the underwriters and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So
Yep. So what happens is, first off, a lender's report, it has a much more information on it than a consumer report. And that's because they're going to evaluate a lot of things. Also, with the lender, they don't just look at the credit report itself, but if they are doing a collateralized loan like a house, there is a separate government report. So, for example, if you have judgments or liens against you, that type of thing, they're going to, or you have IRS loan, you owe the IRS, things like that may show up on the government report. So they're also going to look at that. I think most people are surprised when they pull their credit reports. And let me just tell you, as much as people love Credit Karma, and I have it too, it's not using FICO. It's using Vantage 3.0, which is an old software model, different company. It does not show Experian. So usually, like when I talk to someone initially, they'll say, well, Credit Karma said I had 700 scores, but when my lender did it, they're only 600. Well, they're using I know they're using a different algorithm. So it can be a huge difference. So what the lender is looking for is, what is your credit worthiness based on your history and what you owe? Are you a good risk or a bad risk? And also, just so you know, there are companies, lenders that will look at your social media and see, did you just go on an expensive vacation? Did you go out and buy a boat? Did you buy furniture before your house closed? And believe me, people have done that. And, I try to tell people, no, don't make a purchase before you actually physically close on your house and have all the signatures. Because by going out and buying $30,000 worth of furniture the day before closing, you just killed your own deal, most likely. Or you changed the interest rate. So those are the things they're looking to see, what is the risk. And the consumer, rather than wait to the last minute, they're having a lender pull it. Well, let's back up here. If you're even thinking about buying something big, a house, a car, whatever you're using the money for, it would seem to me that your due diligence would say, and common sense, why don't I pull my own credit and see what's on the report? So I don't have a surprise. And so I'm sure you've heard of the one that's called annualcreditreport.com. Now, that used to be once a year, but right now it is still doing it weekly. It won't give you scores because you're not paying FICO for the scores, but it will show you a real credit report. And key thing here is, the very first thing you should look at is the personal information. Is it only your name? Is it a junior, senior? Because there are merged files. Does it have more than one date of birth and social security? Does it have addresses you never lived at? Does it have credit lines that you have no idea what they are? You never had accounts? I'm going to give you a quick story here, Joey. One of the first clients I ever helped many years ago had a fairly common name, and there was the same name on the report with a different initial. This lady had never purchased a home before. But on her report, there were, you ready? 10 foreclosed homes. 10.
Wow.
And we were able to track it down to a woman in Miami who actually went to jail. She was like buying and then not paying. And I think she equity stripped or was flipping and ended up in a lot of trouble with the law. But because I know what I'm doing, I can help people pretty much in situations like that very quickly, get them back up to par. Now, I don't do anything legal. I don't make legal decisions. I don't make any promises. My saying is, if someone is making you a promise, run. Just run, because there is no way for anyone to promise you. Even lawyers don't promise you.
Right.
However, if I see a situation where I know that the client is probably in the right legally, I will get permission from them, or I will have them send an attorney that specializes in this their documents. And from there, if the attorney says, hey, these people probably have a good case, they typically take it on contingency if the client is the plaintiff. If the
Right.
client is the defendant and they're getting sued, then yes, they're going to charge you because there's lawyers already involved. But I've had a lot of clients who have won money. I had a client who had a $10,000 judgment stripped because of debt collection harassment. So there's a lot of different things in credit that can happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to go into the credit report itself. And so, and I actually went on, believe it or not, Capital One on their app has a thing called CreditWise.
Okay.
And they actually pulled up, they actually used the FICO Credit 8. Score 8. And it came up much lower than what Credit Karma says, because I have Credit Karma as well. And so, yeah, Credit Karma, their Vantage score says, oh, you have a 554. Well, Capital One just told me, based on FICO score 8, that I have a 508. So that tells you a lot, folks, in reference to when you are going for loans and stuff like that. But inside the credit report itself, when a lender is reporting, what do they actually state in that?
Well, they're showing you your account number on there. They're showing you all the times you made payments on time or off time. They're showing you, is it joint, or is it the borrower, or is it the co-borrower? So it'll give you usually it'll give you the dollar amount total and then what's left, what you owe. So that's the information they're looking to see. Hey, did you make them all on time? How long have you had it? And also, I just want to go back to readdress what you just said. FICO has multiple software, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They might even have 10 at this point. So that means that FICO company developed different score models, different algorithms for different industries, mortgage, a consumer score, an insurance score. That is how FICO makes their money. So myfico.com, if you wanted to see all your real scores on FICO and your lender's using FICO, so a mortgage company might say, well, TransUnion, we're going to use FICO 3, and Equifax will use FICO 5, and TransUnion will use Equifax 7. So they may not be using the same algorithm, and it's very rare to actually have more than one score match up with the either two. You know what I'm saying? Have the same score numbers. So it's because there's different software. And then there's Vantage, which is different. I believe Vantage is actually owned by the credit bureaus, and they may eventually use that. I think they just went to 4.0. So when you go to a lender, you got to find out which scoring model are they using, and which software version are they using. And then once you know that, you will have a better idea when you're looking up the stuff on your own, and you won't go into that heart attack surprise when you call me up and go, well, wait a minute, Credit Karma says I have 700, but really it shows for my lender it's 6. That's when people panic, and they can't figure out why, and that's the reason why.
Yeah. Well, in reference to Credit Karma 3.0 for Vantage score.
Yes.
They're using Vantage score 3.0.
Yeah.
In reference to it. So, all right. But the other thing that I want to bring out of that was explain about, in reference to, how like we mentioned about the 35% of payment
history.
History. Now, in the payment history, if you look on your reports, explain a little bit about what could be placed on there.
Well, it'll show every month from when you opened up that credit line. And then it can be marked differently on different reports because there are third-party companies that provide the reports to the lender. So it can show check marks, meaning you paid on time. Sometimes it's in color, it's in green. If it's paid on time, it's red if it's bad, or it has an X if it's bad. Typically on the report, it will tell you the late payments and the month and the day so that you can see it. And that is what people have to look at. So if someone says to me, wait a minute, I've never made any late payments on this, I'll say, can you go back into your online banking if you did it that way and show me proof? Can you show me proof that you actually didn't, that you did make payments on time? Because that's proof that can be sent in, even though it's sent to, sent to the bureaus.
Right.
Even though they're doing it electronically is what I'm trying to say. But the reason you want proof is when you work with me, you have to send certified return receipt letters. If companies do not fix it, again, not being an attorney, I then will turn it over to an attorney for you, or I will turn you over to the attorney and say, you need to look at this because there are statutory violations from $500 to $1,500 for different types, of problems that are not resolved by the credit bureaus. And the credit bureaus like to say, well, we have a file on everybody. There's no file, people. It's just whatever's in the computer in their software program. That's what they're using. No one is keeping a physical file on you with all this information. Sorry.
Okay. Now, in reference to in the credit report, you mentioned about personal information. Explain a little bit more detail in reference to what they, when it's when it's in the credit report.
Yeah, what they need to look for, and again, there's more information in a lender's report, and a lender won't always give you a copy of the report, but you can pull, like I said, through my FICO, or you could pull through the annualcreditreport.com, just not get the scores. So the reason you want to look up the personal information is, what if somebody's file? So I'll give you an example. I had a client with a not too common last name, and he lived in an apartment. He wanted to buy a home. And on his report showed his next door neighbor's credit lines because it was just a coincidence that the guy had the same last name, different first name, and they were not related. So the credit bureaus, it appears as if they merge files. If we're looking up Joey Calvo and there's anyone else with your name or variation of your name, they may stick it on your report. I've seen it where it's a dead person that's also on the report. I've seen it's especially common if you're a junior, senior, or the third. So when you're naming your kid the same name as you, unfortunately, I mean, it's a good thought, but it's going to make it difficult later in life, most likely, because the credit bureaus do merge that kind of information together. So the information, it can either be merged or you can be a victim of identity theft. And if you want to prevent that, there are services out there that you can do, like LifeLock, for example. But one of the things I recommend is to put security freezes on all three reports. Security freeze locks down your three reports from TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You do need to call each one separately, and it can be a pain. And then it's much harder for someone to try to open credit in your name, which is obviously, you don't want people opening credit in your name. And that's the lockdown. Now, the hard part, because I've done this and it's dumb, is when I bought a car a few years ago, I forgot to ask the lender which bureau or bureaus they were using so I could unlock them in advance. And that's what you have to try to remember is, hey, it's locked up. If I'm applying for a loan, then I need to find out which lender, then I contact back that credit bureau or bureaus to temporarily unlock it so the lender can pull it, and then you can set it to lock back up automatically.
Okay. And in reference to the credit reports, the other thing that is of course, you have your personal information and then it goes into the all your creditors, and all.
Right.
Actually, it also in the personal. It actually includes your jobs.
It can.
Yeah.
It can. It doesn't always,
Yeah.
but it can.
Yeah.
And if you don't, for me, there's a point where it's too much personal information. So typically on mine, I don't list any jobs, and you can ask for that to be removed. Sometimes it's provided by one of the lenders or the creditors on your report, and they may not remove it. But usually something like that, yeah, you can usually get that removed.
Okay.
I want people to be cautious because there's also a comment section on the report.
Right.
Don't bother. They don't read it. It's not going to get converted into a 2-digit number and help you. So I would avoid comments. I would also, believe it or not, avoid fraud alerts. And I am a fraud victim from years ago. So I am very careful about monitoring my credit. But unbelievably, if you place a fraud alert on your report, you may drop your scores a few points because now the lender's going, oh, risky. Well, that's unfortunate, but that's how it works.
Right. Okay. And so, you, like you said, on the report itself, you have your name, your personal information, your social security number, the lenders, creditors, and then you have your inquiries. Explain exactly what an inquiry really is.
Well, that's when a lender is looking to see, do we want to even think about, it's basically like a pre-approval. So, for example, a credit card company might just take a look, at what your scores are. So it's different. The increase, when you allow, this is actually a big subject, when you allow a lender to do an inquiry, they're checking you out. They're deciding, should we go on or not? But let me just tell you something, because you brought something right up to mind.
Yeah.
This situation is applicable for mortgage representatives, like mortgage brokers, and for car dealerships. So they want to do the hard hit inquiry. They want the full picture, which is points off of your score.
Right.
And supposedly what they'll tell you is, we're going to find you the best deal. What they don't tell you is we're going to pull your credit 10 to 20 times.
Yeah.
And they're going to do hard hit inquiries, the majority of them. So let's just say that, for example, on average, I found in those cases, the point hits to be $5 points per 20 inquiries. Right. That means it dropped you 100 points. Now, FICO says if you do a lot of a specific type of inquiry, cars, mortgages, within a short amount of time, they recognize it as one hit. Let me tell you, I've never in 19 years seen that. So typically, if you have allowed the lender to pull your credit 20 times, which they didn't tell you, they're dropping your score 100 points on average. Why? I'm going to ask you, why do you think they do that?
Because what they do is they take that report and they send it to other lenders. And as they go to other lenders, those lenders are going to their underwriters. That's the only thing I can think of. Well,
what actually happens is that while they're telling you that they're going to give you the best deal, no, they're going to give you the worst deal. Because if they pulled 20 times, let's say 5 points is 100 points. Right. So let's say you had a 750 score. Yeah. All of a sudden now your score is 650. What happens to the interest rate? Well, you're going to get a much worse interest rate than you would have at 750. And then if you finance through any type of broker, they normally get some type of money every month. Right. People don't realize, even on auto insurance, how it works that way. It's cheaper if you go right to the company directly than if you have an agent pull it. But some people are more comfortable with an agent because they know they can go back and they can get help. So if your scores drop that much, now what happens to all your credit cards that are on there or your other credit lines? Well, all of your other creditors can see your reports. So eventually they're going to say, well, wait a minute. Why did Joe have 700 and now he has 600? And you know what? Maybe we have to cut his credit card limits down as a result, or maybe even cut them off. Because let's say you had a 650 score, they pulled it 20 times, it dropped down to 550.
Yeah.
Well, now you're in trouble with all of your other credit cards, and they can cut you off, which of course will destroy your credit reports at that point. So you want me to tell you what I do?
Go for it.
I should have used my bank, but I got my card from someone I know. But what I did was I typed up a little note, a letter on my computer, and it said, you agree to only pull my credit one time. And then I had them sign it. That way, if they attempted to pull my credit multiple times, then I could go back to the credit bureaus and say, hey, I have proof. And so they only pulled my credit the one time. But all of this is like what I have learned from helping other people. I apply it to myself. So I actually live the way that I teach.
Okay. So another thing that happens is, and I was trying to see if I can find my credit report, because I actually have one from Experian.
Okay.
And it is kind of somewhere. It's hidden. It kind of fell. It kind of fell off.
It ran away.
It ran away. On me.
Yeah.
But when you go into the inquiries,
yes,
and you turn around and you notice that not really the inquiries. Well, actually, it's usually after the inquiry, but you start to notice, and I noticed this, that some creditors are actually checking it and not letting you know that they do it.
Yeah. And right.
Yeah. So like saying, for example, Sparrow Financial. I'll use them. They're the only credit card I have left, and right now, being where I'm at right now, I just had to max it out, unfortunately, to them. But in reference to Sparrow Financial, and then they checked it on 8/13.
Yep, because they're an existing creditor of yours, and if they sense that you're in trouble, they can see it. Now, my understanding is if it's an existing creditor, they can look at your report, and they don't necessarily have to tell you. But as long as those are going to most likely be soft inquiries. Right. So my belief is I don't think it's a person looking. I think that their computer system, especially now with artificial intelligence, is able to evaluate the risk factor for you on that credit card. So it might mean, like right now, if your scores were low, and when you have all three bureaus reporting a credit line, if you have high scores, I have found that Experian is usually the highest, but if you have low scores, Experian is usually the lowest. So their system is paying attention to what you're doing. Their systems know every category of purchases. So like, for example, when I go to one of my credit card statements online, it makes a graph and it tells me what I spent in each category. They've got it, like I said, they've got it all down to a science numerically, so they can say, okay, well, in this area of the country, people have low scores, but in this area, they seem to have high scores. If you start suddenly using your credit card, you're going to laugh at this one. So one of my credit cards has really good loyalty benefits, and I never used to go food shopping with my credit card. I just, paid in cash or check. But I said, I want the points. And I was a little worried the first time I bought food, because their system now knows I use my credit card for food, and that could be a problem because they might think, well, I'm running out of money, so, we got to keep an eye on her because now she's using the credit card for food. So they know by category what you're doing and whether it's something unusual. I've been very fortunate that I have caught fraud on my cards very quickly. The reason for that is all my credit cards are set so that any purchase over 0.01 cents, I get an email as to what it is. That's how I know quickly. And a lot of times scammers use small amounts of money on credit cards because they figure you won't notice it. But me, I notice everything, and I actually look every day.
Yeah. Okay. So how, in reference to, if a person wanted to start out with credit,
Right.
okay, what is the best suggestion you could give for saying
Okay.
like a student that's getting ready to go to college? We'll say.
Well, ideally, if they had a situation like mine where they have a parent that's willing to put them on as an authorized user, but not give them the card unless they know they're totally trustworthy. Because if they give them the card and, the kid goes out and spends $10,000 on something, the parent's responsible, even if the kid's authorized. Where the difference between that and a joint card holder, which is usually spouses, if, for example, if my husband and I were joint on my credit cards and either one of us spends the money, we're both liable together and separately.
Right.
But if he's authorized, I am responsible for any purchases that he makes. So parents have to decide, is your kid worth it? Or maybe get them a credit card with a smaller limit, like $500.
Okay.
That way they can't blow out past that amount of money. But authorized user for a parent, yep. And then once they have that for maybe, I'm going to say a year, they can try and get a credit card that is, like a gas station credit card or a small company credit card. Again, key things being is that you want it to report to all three bureaus. So before you fill out an application and give your date of birth and social security number, find out which bureaus. If they're only reporting to one, it's not going to help you the same way as if it's reporting to three.
Right.
So, also they can go in, if let's just say they're, late teens, early 20s, they can go into their bank or credit union and say, hey, what can I get a Visa card that's secured? So in other words, they put down $500 and they get a Visa card that reports to all three bureaus through their bank or credit union. Well, that's great. Remember, when you spend that money, the goal is to put it back in as fast as possible. So you're subsidizing your own card and they are reporting to the bureaus if they tell you they are.
Okay. Now, there are actually, what we didn't even go into is
okay.
Two different types of reports. We have the consumer.
Yep.
And then we have the business one.
Well, right. And so my specialty is anything consumer related.
Okay.
Business, I don't do. That's done in Bradstreet. That's different. It works differently.
Okay.
However, if the business is attached to the person personally, and I'll give you a quick story.
Go ahead.
Gosh, I had a client for about 15 years because I actually monitored his credit every month or more for many, many years. When we started out, he had, you ready? He had 20 properties attached to him personally.
Wow.
And he's in another state. So I said to him, look, I'm not a lawyer, but I've been to a lot of investor meetings, like to see how this works. I said, from what I understand, you having 20 installment loans on your credit cards or on your homes, that is dragging down your FICO score. I said, you need to talk to a lawyer where you are and put as many of those properties as you can into some type of a trust and get them not affiliated with you personally. And it took him a couple of years to do most of them. And then his scores went up considerably because they weren't being dragged down by, $1 million on 20 properties. So that was kind of a key thing there.
Okay. So what is the best advice in order to maintain a high credit score?
Biggest things, never be late on a payment. Don't apply for tons and tons of credit. You look risky to a lender. Always make those payments on time. If you want, I can tell you what I do. It's different than everybody else. For most people, having a good mix of credit, I am an exception to that because, like I said, my 2 credit cards are very, very old with perfect payment history.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you how I do it, and of course, here's the part where I'm sure you and your listeners or your viewers may think this is crazy. If you can't afford it, don't buy it on a credit card. The exception of using credit would be a house, having a car, and if you have heavy duty medical expenses, I can understand that. But there are people who just go out and buy whatever they want, and then they don't understand how an interest rate amortizes. And there are amortization calculators online. So when I go to buy a house, for example, I'll put in the numbers and the different percentage rates. So here's what's scary. People will say, let's just use $100,000. You can't really buy a house for $100,000, but just as an example, I want to buy a $100,000 house. So I may put down a small deposit, and then over 30 years, maybe my payments will just say are $500 a month. Well, that whatever interest rate I have is going to make that house in the course of 30 years, it might double, it might triple, it might quadruple, depending upon how bad your credit is. And I read an article yesterday how there was some study done that most people with average credit, which is in the 600s usually, they end up losing over $102,000 over their lifetime that they've paid in interest payments. That should wake people up. I don't want to owe any money. So what I do, Joey, is one of my cards allows me to prepay. So since I'm not really making money from the checking account that I have, I will put down, say, $1,000 at the beginning of the month. And then because I see all my transactions, every day I get a report from that credit card company, and it'll say like minus $600. That means I have $600 left to spend. So I'm very cautious that, hey, I will never have a late payment if there's no prepayment penalty. However, my other card does have a prepayment penalty. I think they just changed their rules. So what I do is if I make a purchase and I do it online, as soon as I'm home, I immediately go online and I pay it. So I'm never owing money. The idea for credit is you want these high scores because lenders and creditors want to know your credit worthiness. But if you always owe money, if you max out your credit cards, you're going to have low scores and you're going to pay those high interest rates. So people don't understand that. And I wish people would find out what's your interest rate. Some companies offer one interest rate across the board. I've seen there was a company that was offering a credit card, 28% for everybody. 28% is loan sharking, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what you're paying, you don't care. You're just going to lose $100,000 or more because you're using the interest. You're paying the interest. I don't want to pay interest.
Right. Okay.
You know.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about your website,
sure,
crediteducationconsultants.com, and explain what do
I do?
What when they go on the website.
Okay, so for crediteducationconsultants.com, it's actually being revised right now. But to give you an idea, I do a free 15-minute consultation. It's best if you have, I know you care about scores, but I'm initially looking at reports. So an annual creditreport.com report is fine for me to look at. But I'll do a consult. I'll tell you what it's telling me, get a feel from you, what you're telling me about your end of it. And then from there, I will try to take whatever the problems are that I see and work with the client. I don't ever send out clients letters on clients' behalfs directly. If you hire a company and you don't know what letter they're sending out, you could end up in trouble. So I will have my clients, I teach them, hey, you're going to fill this out. This is based on what you told me. If there's anything incorrect, change it now. Send it out, certified return receipt, for example, to the bureaus with 2 forms of ID. I spell it out like you're a 5th grader, basically, because I have to. And I tell them and teach them and coach them. You want to get into a house? You want to fix these problems? Or do you just want to let them continue getting worse and worse? So same thing with debt collection. I'm going to give you a bad example. Last night I was in this group and somebody just wrote like, I'll answer a desperate question. I identify as a non-attorney because it's an attorney group.
Right.
And it's interesting now that on this group, all of a sudden people are making Facebook pages that are anonymous.
Right.
I don't think that should be allowed. It's fine if you're posting anonymously, but if you're giving answers and you're afraid to use your real name, I question you. Yeah. So I had answered because I saw a guy in what I considered serious trouble. I responded to him and I got attacked by trolls. And I got not just attacked by trolls, but now there's 20 other people posting information that is so incorrect that if this poor guy goes and does any of it, he's going to destroy his own credit because he didn't listen to a credit expert, and like I said, unlike credit repair where they do things on your behalf without you knowing, and a lot of times it's not legal. This guy told me on this group that he was ripped off by somebody locally who made him promises and guarantees. No, this is a journey. It is about how to solve your problem, because unlike a credit repair company, I do not want you coming back to me unless you have to. I want to do the teach a man to fish analogy. If I don't teach you how to fish, you're going to die of starvation. If I don't teach you how credit works, you're going to owe lots of money and interest, and you're never going to get anywhere. So that's who I am as a person, though.
Yeah. So that's one thing I'm kind of learning right now, being unemployed and everything, and all the credit. Now, one last question, actually, because we're coming up to the hour.
Okay.
And so one last quick question is, what's next for Laurie?
Good question. Well, I will still keep Credit Education Consultants, and I want to just let people know that somebody has copied my name in another state. So make sure you're looking at crediteducationconsultants.com, because the other site is not me. I have an associate, longtime friend and associate out in the Los Angeles area, also a credit expert. So we're looking into opening up a new business. It'll be a bit different, but it's something where it'll fit for anyone. It's an all your credit needs site, whether you need, credit help with your reports, whether you want to get a loan, whether you want to pull your credit reports, how you can get the free one versus the paid ones that are good, because some are not. So that's sort of the next goal, hopefully coming up soon, because that'll make it easy for people to go to just one place and not multiple websites. Plus the fact that he and I would also offer paid consultations to be able to explain to people, this is what we see from looking at your report, and this is what we recommend for you to do. So that's what I'm looking at next. Yes. Okay.
All right. So definitely go to crediteducationconsultants.com. And Laurie, thank you so much for everything. And on a side note, Laurie has been a great help in reference to this podcast. When I made the announcement about the radio, possibly, getting on the radio, this is the person I spoke to. Yesterday, we had a little, I won't say me, but I had a little breakdown, but it was something different.
A misunderstanding. That was funny.
But Laurie had a different breakdown. And you know what? Even though we're over the hour, I want you to tell the story because because when I got it, I'm like looking at what
you're having a heart attack. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we don't know each other for a real long time. Okay. First, let me tell you that talk to text with my Jersey accent doesn't work well, and I am
girl.
Okay. Yeah. New Brunswick. I'm from Rockaway originally.
Jersey. All right.
Yeah, but I only type with 4 fingers and I'm kind of slow. So I had seen a post you had put out on radioguestlist.com about you were looking for psychiatrists to talk and tell their stories.
Right.
And I'm a former radio host and I know like 1 million people.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, I had emailed you that says, I know a psychiatrist, here's her name and number, and call her. And I didn't relate it back to my response was related to you're looking for someone for the show. So you responded back and you thought I was referring the psychiatrist to you directly.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what is he thinking? No. I know someone great that would be a guest for your show, but you thought, so I had to tell her the story then. And of course now I'll just try to give you and hey, I'm responding to your ad for a psychiatrist and not, that was good.
Yeah, because when she sent it to me, I'm like, when did I request a psychiatrist? I went to a psychiatrist and one psychiatrist actually said to me that this podcast is your therapy. And I looked at him and I was like, what? And then, as time went by, I'm like realizing, he's actually right. So, but when she emailed it to me, I looked at it, I was like, what the fuck?
I should have put this as in response to your post. I didn't do that. So.
And I forwarded it to someone else. I was like, when did I ask for a psychiatrist?
We had a good laugh.
And then she got back to me and said, oh, it's for the show. I was like, oh, okay. That brought me down like 5,000 points on that. And I was like, but then I reached out to that person in particular, and that person will be on October the 2nd.
Okay.
At 12 o'clock in the afternoon. She will be live on this channel. So all fans that are watching or will watch after this podcast is done, definitely check out October 2nd. It's going to be a very interesting podcast. And I did get permission to pick her brain off the top because I said one thing I may do is I may pick brains, and she's like, everything's open. I was like, okay. So
you'll love her.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She, we had a fun conversation, and then of course, poor Laurie, her computer's going off the wall, so we're on the phone and clarifying everything, and I was like, yeah. So October 2nd, Laurie's gonna write this down because I know she's gonna come on and probably prank us.
Good idea, Joe.
She's gonna come on like, how do you do this?
It's funny.
Both of us. Or she'll throw a credit question at a psychiatrist. Like,
right.
What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I'll tell you, her nickname is Wonder Woman, and she really is. She really is a Wonder Woman. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to say it right now. I actually have a friend who is a real life superheroine who is into Wonder Woman like I am.
Okay.
So you bring that out now, and this person actually gets this person actually will gets the podcast.
Gotcha.
He's going to be amazed. So if they turn around and mention this, I'm going to be like, yes, I'm totally aware, and then that this person has a nickname of that, and that we have, and that you have to come up with questions for that. But definitely, Laurie, thank you so much for everything, all the help and everything. Because if it wasn't for Laurie, the idea about the radio sponsorship wouldn't have came up, and even what we're doing now in this little change in the podcast boundaries, I will call it, and what you've been seeing kind of indirectly came from Laurie, because the person that Laurie sent me to, and actually Laurie was supposed to get a hold of somebody, never got back to me on. But that that original person, in reference to the radio, has gotten back to me, and we have signed a contract, but right now we're waiting to see who's going to bite on the radio sponsorship part. And if it does go syndication-wise, it's going to go to Seattle, Boston, Atlanta, Chicago, LA, San Bernardino to start. So if anybody knows of a corporate head that is interested in wanting to sponsor this podcast into radio, to go to these cities, leave a comment, okay? And I will reply to the comment. If you wind up with credit questions afterwards that come up on here, I will forward them to Laurie, and Laurie will have the answer back, and then I will respond back with her answer. So Laurie's going to get a copy of this link so that she can show all her social media. Two out of three, she is going to probably send this video to that person on October 2nd to reveal that she sent a secret about her that I'm going to hear about. And so, but definitely, in all seriousness, in reference to credit, go to Laurie. She's a great help. She'll be a great help to you. And Laurie, thank you so much for this enjoyable time. And you're welcome to come back on the podcast anytime you want. You know how to reach me in reference to it. If something new comes up, or, like you were mentioning, the what's next. And thank you, everybody, for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all. You're welcome. You are totally welcome.